What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got a really interesting knife to talk about with you guys. This is the Urban EDC Baby Barlow, and it's a front flipper. A lot of people will call that a top flipper. If you watched how I just did that, I'll do that again here real quick. There are some ridges up top. You build up some pressure here, break the detent in a backwards pulling motion, and it flies open. Those of you who watched my unboxing of that know that I struggled to figure out exactly what was going on with this knife. I was trying to do this because I was like, oh, it's a front flipper, and I was trying to do it that way, which you can. It's just super awkward. It makes way more sense to do it like this, and it's way more fun to do it like that. This knife was supplied to me directly by the manufacturer, or rather the pass-around group I'm involved with, so I appreciate that. Now, this isn't going to be a traditional review for my channel. It's going to be more of an overview and just kind of a look at this thing because this knife is a prototype. It is a collaborative effort between Justin Lundquist and Fox Knives out of Italy. So these are being made out of Italy. Really, really interesting design and concept. We'll talk about all that here in a sec. Let's go ahead and do some size comparisons because this is a little tiny knife. And I think we need to put that into perspective here. So up against the Ontario Rat 1, you can see there, Rat 1 coming in at 8.6 inches overall. Don't worry, we'll measure it. We're just doing the size comparisons first. Up against my brand new, recently customized Spyderco PM2. If you hadn't seen that video yet, check that one out. I did that one on Sunday. PM2 coming in at 8.3 inches overall. How about up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue? Ritter Hogue coming in at 8 inches overall. How about the Delica? Spyderco Delica coming in at 7 inches overall. Still massive in comparison with the Baby Barlow. How about up against a smaller, more common knife, the Victorinox Cadet? You can see there, take a look at that. Up against the Victorinox Cadet, how tiny this little guy is. Let's go ahead and get an official measurement on it. Overall length of the Baby Barlow coming in at 5 inches overall. Blade length from tip to scale, we're looking at 2 1/8 probably. And from tip to the edge of the blade, or the actual cutting edge, is 2 inches. So this is a teeny tiny little guy. Let's go ahead and weigh it here. This knife does run on bearings, but because of, the blade weighs nothing, so it's not going to free fall, but it is smooth. I'll tell you that. It's definitely smooth. Let's go ahead and weigh her here real quick. 2.29 ounces, which is probably going to come as a little bit of a surprise for some of you. 2.29 ounces. So this is a 3-ounce little tiny knife. I'm sure a lot of you were expecting it to weigh like an ounce or an ounce and a half. These are pretty solid titanium scales that are on this guy. The actual pieces here, what you're looking at is a stonewashed classic clip point style blade, M390. You're looking at 6AL4V titanium with a nice little G10 insert there. Looks really, really nice. These scales are solid, absolutely, other than this little lock bar here that has been cut into the inside, but you still have to account for the weight of that little lock bar. So it's actually, I'm not going to call it heavy. I'm going to call it solid. Under 2.5 ounces of anything is not much. I'm pretty sure that my key fob weighs more than 2.5 ounces. But anyways, this is a prototype, and I didn't want to use it or do anything crazy with it, in kind of determining my absolute thoughts. But I will go over a few things here. You are able to, at the time of this video, you're able to go to the Urban EDC website, which these are currently available exclusively at. As far as I understand, you can pre-order the newer ones coming out. There's an all titanium one, I think, that runs. You can pre-order it. I think it's like $199, and then a couple different options for G10 colors, running about $215. Now, those are the variants that I am aware of. I imagine there will be different variants as time goes on. Yeah, these are made in Italy, and keep in mind, it is running on bearings. It is an M390 blade, and it is a 6AL4V. Very nicely rounded off, very nicely finished titanium scale. And a lot of people, I know, the first thing on your mind is, How could you pay $200 for something that small? Well, it's as I have brought up on my channel before, you can't necessarily judge, how much work went into an object, by how small it is. The size of it is not now, everybody's going to relate that differently to how much use they can get out of it. Obviously, if you're somebody who works outside on a construction site, this isn't going to be the pocket knife for you. But let's talk about who this might, appeal to. Anybody who lives in an area where you have incredible carry restrictions or legality problems with a certain blade length. 2 inches, this is going to make it legal to carry in a lot of places. It also has a really, really cool fidget factor, and I will say this is really, really easy to carry. I mean, obviously, it's so small, it just disappears in your pocket. It's also a really cool conversation piece. I had a lot of fun just sitting around messing around with this thing, and for the 90% of us who work in a, or have day-to-day lifestyles where what you would demand of your pocket knife is incredibly minimal, honestly, this is going to do it. But it's just going to bring you that satisfaction of having a really nicely made object in your pocket it's really nice and really fun to deploy, $200 will buy you a lot more knife nowadays. $200 will get you it's like the ZTO 562, for example. Actually, I think that one's a little bit less now. I think they might be discontinuing it, but you can get a lot more blade, with a lot more capability for that price, but not every single person on the entire planet is looking for that. You could also make the argument you could get a perfectly reasonable knife that would do just as much for a lot less money. If you're looking for a knife for somebody who works in an office setting, who lives in a state where you're kind of restricted to what you could carry. Yes, that's also true. But a lot of people are looking for that in combination with having nicer materials. A lot of people gain satisfaction out of having a knife with M390, which has incredible edge retention, and they like the idea of having bearings on something that's got a little bit of a fidget factor. They like the idea of having that nice titanium feeling that's been rounded off and has a nice insert that's just as much fun to hold and play with as it is to look at. And on top of that, it's a great little cutting tool, So not everybody's looking for the exact same thing, because I know what people are going to say looking at that, but there are people out there who appreciate a really nice, a really well-made small EDC pocket tool such as this, and are willing to pay for it. So I can understand exactly where this design came from, and I think that's pretty cool. I don't know that bearings are 100% necessary on it, but it does create for a very smooth action. As far as fit and finish on this guy, it's absolutely flawless. You can see there, look at the lines there around that show side pivot. No gaps, nothing looks off. All these edges are just perfectly rounded off. The pocket clip is nice and simple, but it's also robust enough that it's going to hold everything together. Only this much is sticking up out of your pants pocket, which is just nothing. The profile when open or closed is just, I'm not going to say that it's absolutely the thinnest thing in the world. You're looking at about the same thickness, maybe a little bit thicker than the Delica, about the same thickness, maybe a little bit thinner than the Ritter Hogue. How about the PM2, even though we've got custom scales in there? Yeah, it's still thinner yet. So, it's in terms of carry size, yeah, it's going to be just fun. It doesn't really matter what type of pants you're wearing with this thing, whether you're wearing khakis, jeans, or athletic shorts or whatever. This thing's going to carry super well. As far as construction goes here, on the non-show side, you've got a nice sized Torx head, nothing on the front, which looks really nice. This is just like ultra simple, really nice. Then you've got one screw back here as far as construction. Same thing on the front side, just one screw for construction holding that standoff in. There's not really a place for a lanyard. You could wrap one around there, but I think the blade's going to come in contact with it. Again, I think these Torx heads are the same. Are they the same size? Yeah, they look to be about the same size maybe as the little tiny ones that I don't like. Here. Yeah, but, what can you do? Underneath here, you can see how the pocket clip is attached actually from underneath. There's a screw from the underneath scale. Those two screws that you're seeing there, if you're wondering, what the heck are those two screws underneath? Well, they hold in this lock bar. that lock bar has been, it's been countersunk into the or the rear titanium scale, and then there are two screws underneath that hold it in. It's a lot like how they did the sub liner or sub frame lock on the Microtech SOCOM Elite. It just holds everything in there. As far as construction goes, it's unbelievably simple. On the inside of the pivot, there's the bearings, but I mean, incredibly simple construction, and it's all flow through, so really simple to clean apart. You're not going to be doing anything crazy heavy duty with this anyway, but if it does get dirty, it's really easy to clean out. The blade has a nice stonewash finish on it, very simple stonewash finish. It's a very nice clip point style blade. There is it's like a pull up here. Now, this is one thing, and I don't want to criticize this too much because again, this is a prototype, but the ones that are available for pre-order look the same. To me, I thought, oh, okay, so the way that you access the pull is like right in here. There's a little cutout for it. Well, actually, the pull is only available for like, looks to be about 50% of that cutout. So you kind of have to get your finger, if you're going to use that, you have to get it up here. I have to assume that that's what that cutout is for, is accessing the pull, because otherwise there's no point of access for it. And I would assume, you know, that's the design. I mean, that's the idea behind stuff like this, is to be able to open it without flicking it out. It's kind of awkward to access that right there. You kind of have to dig down in there and get it, and it's only for part of it. So what's the rest of this pull for, you know? My suggestion would be make that cutout longer so you can get your fingernail in there and do that. I don't know. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. That struck me as odd. The blade is ground, you know, pretty thin. You can see here the starting thickness is pretty thin to begin with. Here it is up against the Spyderco Delica. So you're looking at about the same thing there. It doesn't have a whole lot of room to drop to the cutting edge. You know, the Delica is a little bit taller blade, but it is plenty sharp, plenty bitey. It's gonna do what it is designed to do, which is very light EDC tasks, cutting open small boxes, packages, envelopes, things like that. This is a nice, you know, like I work in an office setting, and honestly, this would be all the more knife that I would realistically need on a day-to-day basis. If we're talking about the weekends, it's a little bit different. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you saw, I was doing some backyard projects, and I demand a little bit more of my knives on the weekend. But during, just day-to-day stuff, this would be just fine. As far as whether or not it's worth the money that you're going to pay for it, this knife is made in Italy. It is, like I said, Justin Lundquist and Fox Knives. I think both have a pretty good reputation. It's M390 steel. The blade is ground really, really well. The fit and finish is really, really good. These are all premium materials. In my opinion, the price is not out of line with what you can expect from other really nice production knives and really great materials. What's going to get most people is paying that much money for something that's this small. So you have to ask yourself, am I in that specific group of people that wants a really, really small knife that kind of has an emphasis on fidget factor, that I can carry pretty much anywhere? Again, always check the laws in your local area, but that I can carry almost anywhere, and it's ultra light and ultra compact. If you're in that specific group, then this knife is going to speak to you. And, that group of people, if you're not in that group, then that's fine. But that group of people is larger, I think, than a lot of people think. There are a ton of people who really, really like these little compact, fidgety knives, or who are just used to carrying smaller, compact, slip joint style blades. The Victorinox Cadet is great, and it's only $30. Would it be cooler if it had something interesting like, a liner lock and the top flipper? Oh yeah, that's super cool. Is it worth the extra $165 that I'd have to pay for this guy over the Cadet? I don't know. It's up to each individual person. I think it's super cool, and it's definitely made well. But it's really hard to say. This is one of those things where it's not something that I can 100% recommend to everybody, because you have to be in that group. It has to specifically speak to you in order for it to make sense. But if this does speak to you, here's what I can say: you're definitely buying a well-made item. You're buying something that's made with premium materials and that functions exactly the way that it is supposed to function, with only one awkward thing about it, and it's the cutout that I assume is meant to allow you to better engage that pole. The blade is ground really well. There's nothing in the cutting path other than the pole, which isn't going to gather that much gunk anyway. Has a nice clip point style blade, a little tiny bit of belly there. You know, as far as the, like I said, as far as the tasks it was designed to do or to be used for, yeah, it's going to function just fine. This is super cool. That is honestly all I can say about this guy, guys. I don't know that there's really anything else I can say. I didn't show centering. It did come perfectly centered. You can see there. And lock up. Not a lot of room for engagement there, but you can see the geometry is locking up just fine. No blade play up, down, left, or right. Very solid. This is a well-made little knife, and it's fun to deploy over and over and over and over again, which you will absolutely find yourself doing if you decide to pull the trigger on this guy. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so please check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, then please subscribe to my channel because there is definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.